Good morning. In this episode, I am addressing the biggest challenge before internal security of India today, that is Naxalism and Maoism. Firstly, I would like to address that who are they? It is more than 4 decades, um, 5 decades rather, I would say, and we are facing this problem without any solution. So certainly it seems that yes, the ground problems are not being addressed. So take the background to understand the realities, that how could it come up? Secondly, what is the present stage? Thirdly, how Naxal operations are being carried out? Why anti-Naxalite operations generally get defeated? And what is the real solution line which policymakers have to take consideration of? Come back to the points. Firstly, this cropped up because of a number of factors. Generally, people know that failure of land reform, but I would like to add that first factor is urban-rural divide that came up in India because of heavy investment in urban area, in heavy industry, in R&D, and rural India left out. And as a result, this created the biggest problem of poverty, deprivation, underdevelopment, regional imbalances. And yes, the problem got multiplied further, that while addressing poverty in 1971, the ruling government put Land Reform Act in 1972. The basic objective of the Land Reform Act was to ensure proper distribution of land resources, because some were holding 1,000 acres of land and majority had been landless at that point of time. So the Land Reform Act was to ensure that if the land is fertile, the person would not be holding more than 10 to 18 acres of land. If land is non-fertile, he would not be holding more than 54 acres of land per family, not per individual. The provision was made. It was very impressive, generated hope among landless that they would be getting land. But what went wrong? Point one, there had been number of provisions in Land Reform Act which was major cause of failure. For example, such lands were exempted from Land Reform Act which had been under plantation crop, which had been for charitable purpose, which had been for religious purpose, which had been for non-agriculture purpose, and even a state government was given certain discretionary power to exempt certain land from this act. So already there had been number of escape route. Further, what happened, government on one hand put this Land Reform Act in 9th schedule of Constitution to make it judicially immune and to avoid litigation. But what happened, this Land Reform Act was challenged in court on the ground of violation of fundamental rights, especially right to equality and right to property, because that was also fundamental right at that point of time. Millions of cases in course of time got pending in the court that diluted the political will, that administration got on back foot, and landless, of course, got resentment, and finally what they got, leaders like Charu Majumdar, Kanu Sanyal, and the movement basically led by them from Naxalbari of West Bengal. So it is called by geographical identity as Naxalism. Basically it is Marxism, which believes in that socio-economic equality could be achieved by the revolution. Like Maoists, they believe in Mao Zedong philosophy, who says that power flows from the barrel of gun. Why they got influenced by such militant philosophy? It was because of the fact that unlike West Bengal, all other states, instead of addressing the problem of land reform and addressing the demands of the land reform, they started military operation, taking it as a law and order problem. When military operations started, naturally it's a basic that when a peaceful movement, peaceful group is subjected to military operation, they will get militant. And ultimately, who started militancy? This is a question like first hand or first head. Ultimately, in course of time, it has started spreading, and after West Bengal, of course West Bengal during Mr. Jyoti Basu addressed this problem through party cadres. They were able to enforce this law through party cadres, I repeat, and because of that the land reform was much more up to mark in West Bengal, and that generated demand in Orissa, in Andhra Pradesh, in MP, in Bihar, in UP. Of course, in course of time, that yes, they should also get the same kind of consideration what was made in West Bengal. But these states, instead of addressing, as I said, started a military operation that multiplied the problem. At present, I would like to say that these Naxalites are also, Maoists has also deviated from their ideology. They also they have got having hand in glove with local miners, because you must be knowing that all these problems are restricted to mineral rich area, and miners going for illegal mining, they are funding these so-called Naxalite and Maoist leader. I will say so-called. The majority of them are now so-called leaders, and they are getting fund from miners, and these so-called Naxalite leaders are further funding villagers in terms of welfare work, but they are naturally villagers, deprived people. They are getting like camouflage, these uniform, which is combat dress, and these poor boys and girls who are no employment, no education, no health, no facility, everything is deprived of in those areas because of the latency. Naturally, they have become soft target of security forces. Security forces for certainly not be blamed for that purpose, because of the fact what happens. Security forces have identity. They can be identified. They have cadres here. On the contrary, the Naxalites don't have any cadres identification. Because of that, whosoever wearing camouflage, they are targeted by security forces. Now come to the ground that the number of times what happens, CRPF like highly trained force are being brutally killed by these Naxalites, and that sometimes people start pointing finger towards the status of training, their standard of training. That's absolutely wrong. It's not like that. The basic cause I would like to address in points. It is not only I am addressing for those who are aspiring to be civil servant, or I am addressing those who are in administration already, addressing those who are in media active, those who are policy makers, and those who are political masters in general, those who are social activists. The basic points are, the firstly, state government have been dealing with this problem as problem of law and order in the state, because public order is subject of state list. When they failed to address this problem as problem of public order, then under Article 355, which is the responsibility of union government to protect the states from external aggression, internal disturbances, by using Article 355, the union government has deployed central forces in all the states. Generally, what has happened that when central forces are deployed there is a kind of ego clash between the district and state police, what you say, and on the other hand central forces. Central forces feel that they are simply liability, they are not able to deal with any problem, whether disaster, whether communal violence, whether anything, they are always called in. They are calling central forces, they are calling army, then what this civil administration is doing. On the other hand, civil administration feel that when central forces are taking charge, let them take charge, let them lead, let them operate, it is none of their business now. Ultimately, simple issues like if state police officer is not saluting the central police officer, central police ones are not saluting the state police officer, this simple ego clash developed, and because of that there is lack of coordination, what is called complete coordination failure. We have to understand, this is the first point, that unless they put their head together, they cannot operate successfully, because the state police is very much aware of the local geography, local culture, local society, local population, and the central forces are very much trained in combat. Unless they put their head together, this operation can never be successful. Ultimately what happens, in spite of having good training, intelligence failure, command failure, and because of that, the Naxalite operating in this area, they get to know that where CRPF is operating, and CRPF personnel are not able to get their movement. That shows that yes, their intelligence, their leadership, their network is much more effective than network of central forces. And because of that, when central forces are killed, naturally in retaliation mode, they start killing the villagers. Out of retaliation it is. And then what happens when innocent are killed? These so-called Naxalites, either they really wait for innocent killing, because they increase their mass base, and ultimately this fight is going on. They killing security forces killing in retaliation the innocent, and this is simply all the policy makers, political masters, all are basically what you say simply is the either asking for security forces and go for combing operation, but the question, and all they are asking for that come to dialogue table. The question is, military operations should be carried out just to put pressure to take them to dialogue table. Now, I am addressing about all the problem. Now the question is, what is the solution line? Very simple solution line is, firstly, military pressure must be mounted. How can? With coordination. Central forces, state police put their head together, design the whole operation. They must go together. This will minimize the human rights violations also. This will minimize the innocent killing also. One. Second, eco towering, the solar powered eco tower being installed in entire Naxalite infested area and supported by transit camps. So the transit camp will protect the eco tower will protect the transit camp, and this way they will spread in entire Naxalite infested area. Thirdly, all these areas are basically tropical monsoon type forest, that is deciduous forest. Deciduous forest shed their leaves in the month of April, May. And this is the right time to, before this forest starts shedding their leaves, entire area be cordoned off. So the entire forest is transparent, and then operation could be very easily carried out. Next is that yes, simply operation is not solution, apart from, along with mounting pressure over them, the supply line be identified. How are they getting such sophisticated weapons? How are they able to open fire? How are they able to get this training? Who are the right people? This has to be first addressed, because it is huge arms ammunition they are getting. What is their supply line? This has to be identified by cordoning of the area only, by GPS, by of course this eco towering what I am talking about. And then finally comes, yes, development work. We cannot wait for peace to start development, because unless there is development, there won't be peace. This is interlinked to each other. Thank you.